There is nothing more entertaining than a former Formula One driver spilling the beans about a formerly successful Formula One team that explains their decline. Sergio Perez, as you might have heard, recently made headlines across the Formula One world by simply attending a Mexican podcast where he talked a lot about his final years at Red Bull, which helps us understand three important things. The first thing this will help us understand is Red Bull's downfall from the 2024 Formula One season. The second thing is the lying bastard Christian Horner's antics. And the third thing is the fact that Red Bull is basically Max Verstappen's team with a spare Formula One car. So these are the three key takeaways from Sergio Perez's podcast appearance, and we will look into it. I have wasted a lot of time cross-checking the facts to make sure they make sense, and it's only fair that you motherfuckers also waste some of your time too. So let's go and let's just look at the final years of Sergio Perez in Red Bull to isolate the problems that happened in 2024, which continue to this day in the Milton Keynes outfit. The problem started in 2023, Checo says. When I arrived, the team had a very direct way of evolving the car. In 22, the rules changed a lot, the ground effect era began. But when we started developing the car, it didn't matter if you drove the 2022, 2021 or 2020 cars. It was the same car, the same driving style. So basically, even with the ground effect era new regulations, these motherfuckers retained a lot of the similar characteristics of the car from the previous generation because it was actually good. Whenever their Renault engine didn't give up, Max Verstappen will go on to challenge for the podium positions and also win races. Max Verstappen's drives during the Lewis Hamilton era were something of its kind. So it's kind of understandable, but as the rules and regulation changed, they started to struggle. So the foundations of the 2024 problems in Red Bull began in 2022 because it was the same car and the same driving style. And in 2023, we started with a very good car for both drivers. We were fighting for the championship. Suddenly we arrive in Barcelona with upgrades. It started to get very complicated. That's where shit hit the fan. And that's when Red Bull entered their infamous narrow pit window era, in which only Max Verstappen could adapt to it. And Checo had to drive the Red Bull with full conscious effort. When the car's development took that direction, even Max and I told him about it. Both Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez had problems with the car. They still went that way. They didn't give a shit about what the drivers had to say. And primarily, I would blame Max because he won 19 races in that season. So it's not all on Checo. It's not all on the Red Bull development team. It's kind of a little bit on Max Verstappen as well. But again, when your drivers complain that the car is not in a good direction and when the rules and regulations are changing and you're sticking with the same car, it's a bad start. And Adrian Newey also confirms it. He explains it here. Before leaving Red Bull, going to Aston Martin, he explains already through the very last stages of 23, the car was starting to become more difficult to drive. Of course, that suited Max. He could handle it if you like. It didn't suit him, but he could handle it. It means that Max Verstappen is the second coming of Jesus Christ who could adapt to any car underneath him to extract the maximum performance. Sergio Perez, being a mere human being, he couldn't do that. And then in 2023, the remainder of the year, Sergio Perez kind of died and Max Verstappen became the legend that he is today. He just dominated the season so bad, so good, that it became so bad for Sergio Perez. And further here, it's something that I was starting to become concerned about. This is Adrian Newey speaking. But not many other people in the organization, these two motherfuckers, seem to be very concerned about it. So the best engineer of all time, Adrian Newey, was concerned about the direction of development of the Red Bull car post 2022 because it was the same car and they kept on going in the same direction. They still went that way despite Max and Checo told them that it is problematic, despite Adrian Newey shared his concerns and he was concerned about it. So Red Bull just, these two motherfuckers, what their name? Pierre Wash and this is Paul Monahan. This guy's a dumb fucking cunt. I'm trashing these guys because you are supposed to be the best of the best of the best to be in Formula One, and you guys clearly are not. These two should go to like F1 Academy or some shit where the stakes are low. Anyway, eventually the problem became worse, and the problem became more and more acute to the point that even Max found it difficult to drive. And Max Verstappen confirms it as well. He says after Sergio Perez was fired at the end of 2024 season, Max Verstappen says that the car we had at one point was very difficult to drive. That was also the case for me, and that just doesn't help. We should have started working on that sooner because that would have helped him a lot too. So basically, Pierre and Paul ignored the opinions of superstar Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and also the best Formula One engineer of all time, Adrian Newey. And they created a monster. Max Verstappen literally used this word to describe the Red Bull car after 2023 in 2024, that the car has become a fucking monster. So basically, Red Bull's internal work culture fucked them in the ass, due to which they are having problems, like I think midway from 2024, and these problems persist till today. The second thing that Checo explains is that Christian Horner is a lying bitch. So he starts off by saying that things started to go downhill significantly when key people left the team. In the end, it gradually fell apart when Adrian left. That's when the problems really started. I mean, this is not surprising considering Adrian Newey is the best aero designer in Formula One, probably of all time. And then Jonathan Wheatley left, and now he is in Sauber, who was also a fundamental part of the team. Things started to go downhill. Christian Horner was asked if Adrian Newey's departure was a key reason for their struggles, and this piece of shit said that no, it's not. Below here, I have his quote: "We would have had all of these issues because the issues were already there. One man's input could never be so dramatic so quickly." He's just getting away with it from a technicality, because I have just shown you that like he was getting concerned about it. Adrian Newey expressed his concerns about the direction of development of the car. Sergio Perez was already skeptical about the direction of development of the car, like especially after the 2022 rules change. It was the same car and they still went that way even after Max and him told about it. Max Verstappen also shared that it was the case for him, and that just didn't help. The car was very difficult to drive and we should have started working on that sooner, which they didn't. So this guy is just getting away with the technicality. He said that like the issues started showing up in Miami, 2024 Miami, where Lando Norris won his first ever Grand Prix. But the reality is, Adrian Newey probably mentally checked out a long time before Miami as well. When you stop listening to the best guy you have and the guy who is responsible for the majority of the success you have, obviously he's going to get mentally checked out. And the fact that he left Red Bull to go to Aston Martin, it means the conversations were probably happening way before Miami. And okay, it's kind of illogical to say that all of the issues could have been solved by Adrian Newey, but he kind of pointed out that this is not going in the right direction from a very early stage. So yes, Adrian Newey's departure fucked Red Bull in the ass. We all knew this, but we're kind of giving Christian Horner a little bit of benefit of doubt for whatever reason. And now Sergio Perez's statement in the Mexican podcast, which he said to in Spanish because these guys were colonized by the Spaniards, now confirms that Christian Horner is a lying bitch. And another thing Checo also talks about is after he had signed his contract in Monaco last year. Like, remember in 2024 Monaco, like after a terrible season in 2023, but the media was already just asking him about it. Do you think you will still be here? Everyone was talking about my future, which is actually legitimate. Here, Sergio Perez was being a little bit bitch. He was whining about it because it's the nature of Red Bull. Before Sergio Perez, they had Daniel Kvyat, they had Alex Albon and all those type of people. And they probably had contracts too. But it doesn't matter to Red Bull. You know, they don't give the drivers a lot of time to adjust to the car. And the duration of time you stay in a car while still underperforming in Red Bull depends on the options that Red Bull has. If Red Bull doesn't have any good option, they will probably wait, like they are doing it now with Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda would have been fired if Red Bull had a better option. Right now, they don't want to ruin Hadjar's confidence, so that's why they are not putting Hadjar in the Red Bull. Liam Lawson was already a failed experiment, so obviously they're not going to go back to that. Yuki Tsunoda is the best option at Red Bull right now. That's why they still have him. Otherwise, he would have been fired. The same thing is true with Sergio Perez. Just because you had a contract extension doesn't mean that people will stop asking you questions about your future in Formula One, considering you underperformed significantly in 2023 and also in 2024. But either way, Red Bull could have defended him a little bit stronger, right? Christian Horner, like he points it out here, it would have been so easy for the team to protect me and simply say, we have a driver under contract for the next 2 years, but they didn't. Looking back, I never really picked up on this, but looking back, it is actually true. And it actually created a lot of pressure on Checo's side of the garage, and that pressure trickled down to engineers and everyone involved. In the end, that cost us a lot. I believe it was fundamental to blah, blah, blah. And Christian Horner said that Red Bull did everything to help Sergio Perez, which is obviously a lie. He didn't. He never came out. I mean, he gave the bullshit, technically correct, politically correct statements, which kind of said that, hey, we'll just see what happens, right? Like those type of statements. And Max Verstappen also said, we should have started working on that sooner. I mean, Max is talking about the issues of the car, which is also very important. The team deprioritizing the issues of the car and not supporting Sergio Perez by giving a simple statement, it kind of fucked Sergio Perez a little bit more. Every weekend after weekend, Sergio Perez was asked by the media that, do you feel confident about your future in Formula One? It was partly, I mean, Perez himself was a little bit partly to blame because he was fucking it up every weekend. He was struggling to get out of Q1 every weekend and not finishing in points. He was just barely scraping some points every weekend. So it's a little bit on him. But still, the point holds that Christian Horner is a liar. Red Bull did not try everything to help the Mexican Minister of Defense, who played a critical role in helping Max Verstappen win his first ever Drivers' Championship. The final thing that Checo confirmed for us is that Red Bull Racing is basically Verstappen.com Racing with an extra spare Formula One car. He says when he met Christian the first time in 2020, he said to him, look, we are a team that runs 2 cars because we have to run 2 cars. We could easily race with just Max. And that was when Alex Albon was still there, and I knew that Alex was a great driver. So basically, Red Bull put all of their chips in Max Verstappen, and if you are a Formula One team, you kind of have to give equal importance to 2 drivers. And Checo explains that when he joined the team in 2021, his engineers were totally new, very good, very capable, but they had 0 experience. And I reckon the same issue persisted with the other drivers in the second Red Bull car, namely Alex Albon, Liam Lawson in the recent history, and currently Yuki Tsunoda. I'm pretty sure the level of engineers that Max has and the level of engineers that the second Red Bull driver has is a little bit different because, again, in the words of Christian Horner, they are running 2 cars because they have to run 2 cars, which means they will cut all kinds of costs for the second Red Bull seat. And the reason is very simple. The first thing is Max Verstappen is a horse that you can just bet on. This is the 2023 constructor standings. Mercedes came in P2. 409 points these motherfuckers had. Max Verstappen alone had 575 points. So if you give Max a dominant enough car every weekend, you kind of don't need a second driver. And the second driver was Sergio Perez, who was barely P2. If Lewis Hamilton had a slightly better car, he would have probably pipped him for P2 in the driver standing. So Max Verstappen is just the kind of a guy that you can just bet on. So even though I understand the emotion of Christian Horner in the sense of cost cutting by giving new inexperienced engineers for the second Red Bull driver, you are running a Formula One team. You have to be fair to both of the drivers, even if one of the drivers is the second coming of Jesus Christ. I totally understand that. I really totally understand that Max Verstappen is a guy that you can just bet on. You should build a car around Max Verstappen, and this is one of the primary reasons why I was a little bit excited about Verstappen going to Aston Martin, because if he goes to Aston Martin, Lawrence Stroll is not going to give a shit about what his son wants, and he's going to give Max the car that he wants, and Max should go ahead and win multiple championships with it. But it's a hypothetical situation which will probably never happen. Let's talk about the work culture, because Christian Horner and Red Bull's priority is and always will be Max Verstappen. And right now, shit has hit the fan because the car is difficult to drive and Max Verstappen doesn't have a machine with which he can fight for world championship, especially in 2025, especially in race after race after race. The upcoming race is the Austrian Grand Prix, and the qualifying is in a few hours, which is wild because I shouldn't be making this video in this period of time. Either way, Red Bull need to get their shit together, and it's easier said than done because we now know that all of the issues that these guys have, first of all, you need to fire these two guys. If any team needs to change top dogs, senior professionals, it's Red Bull. It's not Fred Vasseur from Ferrari that needs to go. It's Christian Horner from Red Bull that needs to go. I am tired of the lies. We're tired of the lies. Stop ruining the careers of the number 2 driver and start giving them equal chances of fighting for a championship. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.